Close your eyes. I want you to imagine somebody that has nothing. Where do they live? What are they wearing? What do they look like? Now imagine somebody who is £600,000 in debt. What do they look like? Now, how many of you imagine somebody that looks like me? You see, back in 2017, 6-7 years ago, this is where I found myself, more specifically the business. We were £600,000 in debt. And today I want to share with you some of the steps that I took to transform myself to be able to get out of that situation. You see, we went from 0 to 5 million in 5 years, from 2012 to 2017. Such fast growth, but with such fast growth, it was chaotic. There was so much going on, and we knew what we were doing. More specifically, I knew what I was doing with the sales and marketing. But in the background, behind the scenes, financially, we were a mess. And that level of mismanagement on my part led us to being £600,000 in debt. Now, if you'd have said to me, well, that was a challenging period, and I always say to people, I don't believe in good or bad. I believe it just is. There is no good or bad. It just is. The situation just is. And what I mean by that is, you know, before I started out, if you'd have said to me, you work hard for the next 5 years, 12 to 15 hour days, and not only will you not have nothing to show for it, but you'd actually have minus £600,000 to show for it. Do you want that? I would have said no. Who in their right mind wants that? But in actual fact, now that I fast forward 5, 6, 7 years, it's actually the best thing that ever happened to me. Why was it the best thing that ever happened to me? Because it taught me, such challenging periods, such a challenging time, taught me how to look at myself as the cause of the situation I was in, but more specifically, how to look at myself as the pivot that will allow me to get out of that terrible situation that I was in. You see, I looked at myself throughout that whole period, and I said, look, if there's anything that can come from this, I need to be able to adapt and evolve in order for me to get out of this and for my business to get out of it. So how did I actually get out of it? What were the steps that I took to get out of it? Because where I am today is I put solely down to that specific moment of financial crisis, I call it. And, you know, it's not easy, but fundamentally, that level of chaos and that level of debt causes a stir of emotions. And no matter where you are, whether it's £600,000 in debt, 60 grand in debt, 6 grand in debt, it's all relative. And the first thing that you need to do, that I did, was to manage my emotions. Now, how did I do that? I did that through self-talk and maintaining an identity, a vision of who I was and who I am. See, I would see myself as a warrior in battle. And I was in battle with myself. So I'd see myself, and my affirmations, my self-talk that I would say to myself every day when I was driving up to the office, repeat in my head, was, the harder it is, the better you get. Don't wish for less problems, wish for more skills. Don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. These sort of affirmations constantly going over my head would allow me to maintain control in such a stressful situation, that allow me to manage my emotions and manage my state, to then be able to search for the solutions. Because the worst thing to do in that situation is panic. And that's the first thing you need to do before you get to the tactical things that you need to do to get out of that situation. Because obviously there are some tactical things. I didn't just sit there talking to myself and we got out of it. But essentially, the next thing that I did was, I said, who? I don't believe in, if you've got a problem, I don't believe in saying, what do I need to do or how do I need to do it? My whole thing is searching for people that know how to do it. So my question is a who question. Who do I need to find that can teach me what I need to learn in the shortest amount of time possible in order for me to get out of my current situation? And that's what I did. So I found a CFO that I worked with for a period of 6 months, 2 half days a week. And a CFO, they're not cheap. They come at like anything between £1,000 and £1,200 a day. And obviously being in a financial crisis, we couldn't afford that. Or at least I had to find ways to afford it. Because again, that was another thing I used to say to myself, was not I can't afford it, how can I afford it? And what I essentially did was I sacrificed. I sacrificed throughout the whole journey of success that I've been on, at every stage of evolution, especially in the early periods. I had to sacrifice myself at a certain point to be able to get it to the next level. So I didn't take a salary for 4 months during that period, maybe 6 months during that period. That allowed us to then manage the cash flow better and pay for somebody to teach me, because I knew where we were going. And the first day when the CFO joined and looked at our numbers, he asked me about where I spent my time. And my focus was all about growth. An ego-driven sort of approach to getting out of that hole, which was to grow the business and to get more sales and marketing. And what he said to me, I never forget. He said, your business is talking to you, and it talks to you by numbers. Learn to understand what your business is saying. And the same is true, not just in business, but with your personal finances too. So learn to understand, learn to listen to your business, your finances, by understanding the numbers. Take time to look at them. So I was hooked, and I was like, right, so what do we need to do? And what we did, we went through a range of different tactics and techniques of getting out of the situation. We looked at profit and loss and looked at all of the costs where we were overspending, leading up to the balance sheet and everything else. But the most important thing we did was look at our cash flow and tied the cash flow to our profit and loss. And what we essentially did, the first thing that we did was we got honest with our current situation. We listed out all of the costs that we were spending money on, and we put them in 2 categories: luxury, necessity. And taking that hard look at myself, at the business, and splitting them allowed me to see the true extent of the situation. And I then was presented with 2 columns: luxury, necessity. The idea was then that we would have to cut all the luxuries of the business that wasn't needed, and then we defined the luxury as anything that didn't bring in sales, including subscriptions, staff, marketing, whatever, and anything that didn't bring in cash. So now I'm left with a list of luxuries, and I had to then do the hardest thing that I ever had to do, and I had to make those cuts. This was a test of me, and again, like a warrior mindset that I had to go in, and unfortunately we had to make like 20 people redundant. We had to cut so many costs, subscriptions, everything just came off of that list of luxuries that allowed us to get to that point where we would now be able to pay that debt back in a sustainable amount of time, because we only had 3 to 6 months to save the business. So in essence, understanding the current situation by finding somebody you can bring into the business or bring into your situation to allow you to be accountable by being honest and open about where you are is the fundamentals of everything. You can't lie to yourself once you get it all down on paper. So don't be afraid to make hard decisions. Look at yourself honestly, look at your situation honestly. Get somebody in to hold the mirror up to you and treat your finances as a reflection of yourself, of you, because your problems or your situations or the blessings that you have is all a reflection of you. You want to change it, you need to change. I learned about profit and loss. I learned about cash flow. I learned about budgeting. I then learned how the balance sheets interact with the profit and losses and everything else. All because I had the mindset that don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. Who do I need to learn from? So I don't know how many people this video is intended to help. 1, 2, 10 people. If it does, hundreds of people, whatever. I've done my job. Until next time.